Welcome to Dose of Social, your recipe for social media success. I'm Lindsay Mauk,
I'm Kayla Pearlstein.
and this is Dose of Social.
Social. You've changed from your fingers.
There you go. There's the fingers.
We are super excited because we're back for part 2 with Amber Gilormo of The Boutique Lawyer. Thank you for joining us again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming back, Amber. Very excited for part 2 today.
Yeah. Okay, so let's jump right in. So Amber owns The Boutique Lawyer. I know her because I follow her on social media and I've bought a lot of her contract templates. They are amazing. If you are an online business, you should take a look. Obviously, she also is a lawyer, so you can contact her for her services as well. So, Amber, when a business is generating consistent revenue, what legal upgrades should they prioritize next?
You know, when you're consistently generating revenue, I always line that up with your risk is getting bigger, like more eyeballs on your brand, which is almost always a wonderful thing. But there was a recent brand, I feel like I'm on small business, internet, right? So every time I open up my social media apps, I'm always seeing somebody getting sued for the biggest thing lately is having to rebrand because they're infringing on somebody else's trademark. So I would say if you're making consistent revenue, make sure you have your brand actually locked down. Because that means you have eyeballs, you your proof of concept, you're making consistent sales, but do you actually own the base, the bottom of it? When we are talking about your brand, I think that's also one of the biggest misconceptions is that I have my social media handles, I have my domain, I have my email address, I register my LLC, but you don't actually own the rights to your name or your brand unless you have a trademark. And so I would say if you haven't already done it, definitely go and register a trademark for it. Make sure that you can register it. Because you never want to be on the receiving end of a cease and desist, having to rebrand on somebody else's timeline because you missed that step. It sucks. There's so many brands lately who have hopped onto social media to talk about their having to rebrand journey. One that I just saw this morning when I opened my app was Coastal Caviar, who is now
I saw that yesterday.
Club Coastal, because caviar was the trademarked term by a famous jewelry company who's been in business for ages, decades, and they've had that trademark for decades for caviar. In any way, so maybe they won the small business in the court of public opinion, but in the court of law, truly doesn't matter, right? And sometimes it can work against you if you're oh, I know this brand exists, but I'm going to fight them anyways. So you want to make sure that we own the rights to our name.
Yeah, I saw that, and there was another one on TikTok. It was I don't know if this was it or not, but Chloe's Cookies, and she was.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that
What
was
was
a
it
whole
called?
other
Chloe's
one.
Giant Cookies or something like that? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was something.
Yeah.
I thought they were getting onto her about her name, and she was like, "That's my name, so what am I supposed to do about that?"
I mean, yeah, you sometimes if somebody has a trademark, for Amber in technology, for software, I don't think I could go then launch an app under the name Amber just because it's my name, right? If somebody has a trademark for that, then that's their trademark. There's a really interesting fight about this right now, but it's kind of having to do more with contract law. It's Jo Malone, the perfume.
Yeah, I saw that
Fragrance.
too.
Yeah, you saw that. So yeah, she sold the rights to her fragrance line, I think, and her name in conjunction with the fragrance line to Estee Lauder. And then now she's over at Zara, right? And Zara's using Jo Malone in conjunction with some products that may or may not be fragrance oriented. And there's a big fight over it. So we'll see.
Well, the good news is for those listening, Amber does help with trademarking, so you can contact her for that.
Definitely. It's one of my favorite things.
And Amber, if someone listening is looking to start the process of getting their name trademarked, is there a website they can go to? What would the first step you recommend be?
So the first step is to contact me would be through theboutiquelawyer.com, or you can just send me an email, Amber at theboutiquelawyer.com. But If you are like, hey, I want to learn more about the trademark process, we also have some blogs on that. But the best place I think to go to like figure out whether or not it's something like you're interested in, or some people attempt to DIY it, and that's uspto.gov. You're going to get a clear sense of like the process just by going to the website, because it's like straight out of the 90s. I know they tried to redo it recently, but like a government site, like it's not always the easiest thing to figure out, right? So, but they have a lot of information on there. They have a search system. You can actually go and search your name and see what comes up. I mean, that's a great start too.
Yeah, definitely. So uspto.gov, and then when you get confused and can't figure it out, go to theboutiquelawyer.com and contact Amber.
It's a good plan. Yeah.
So Amber, we've talked about if a business is growing, they have to prioritize specific legal matters, but what does a legally mature business look like behind the scenes? Like, how do I know I'm checking all my boxes on a legal side as a business owner?
This is such a funny question to me, because like most of my clients are super established. Like they've been in business sometimes like 5 years more. And they got big businesses. Like probably my biggest client is like they're in the 8-figure like space, behind the scenes. Don't feel bad if it's a mess, okay? Because like it can be a mess and you can still be really successful. But the common thread I see about people who are committed to like enduring in their business, like building the business, growing it, maybe potentially selling it one day, is like they've prioritized legal in some way. And that's going to look like either working with like an attorney on a recurring basis, which is something I do for people, like outside general counsel, or it will look like having your own like quarterly audit system in place. Like you just have a checklist, and it can be so simple, especially for our solopreneurs and small businesses. Just like a quarterly checklist that you do. Like you want to look through your policies. Have any of your offers changed? Do you need to edit your terms? Like this little system that you walk through each quarter to make sure that you're keeping it updated. I think that's one of the biggest risks that we run in online business, is thinking that it's one and done. Like, okay, I got my website policy up, I got my privacy policy or my terms and conditions, and you never look at it again. And unfortunately, like laws change. Fortunately, unfortunately, it goes both ways. They change, and so you do have to update those things. And so that's what I mean, like just scheduling it quarterly, and at minimum, some people like we won't get to it every quarter. Like we're busy. Do it once a year. And if you can't do it once a year, like that's a problem. You got to be doing it like at least once a year to go in, look at your policies, update them, update your client contracts, make sure that you haven't like just build it into your like funnel maintenance,
Yeah.
that's the best way.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice, because I think I'm speaking for myself and my own experience, but my updates come when I need them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
being ahead of
Yeah.
the game and having either a quarterly or biannually or annually check-in process, whether that's with your attorney or just with your team or your COO or whoever it is, just
Mhm.
to see what needs to be fine-tuned, I think is really great advice.
Yeah. Because like it's proactive takes effort to be proactive, right? It's like weight loss. Like I'm not gonna like actually try at this to make myself do something, right? And that's the same thing with like legal stuff. It's so easy to put it off, right? Unless it becomes a problem and like we have
Mhm.
an issue we have to escalate. And that's most people. So again, like don't feel bad about yourself if that's you. It's just like if you want to try and get ahead of it, having those regular check-ins is the way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I know in part 1, we talked a little bit about ADA complaints on websites,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it's not a problem until it is, right? So looking and making sure that you're thinking ahead of, what potentially what's changed in your business, what do you need to modify, and then obviously adjusting things as they happen is important too.
Mhm.
I always, whenever we sign a new client over at LTM Digital, we always look at the contract and say, okay, what do we need to add in here that we haven't had in the past that we've seen that we need now?
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, so looking at those things.
Mhm.
So speaking of contracts, and we've talked about how you sell contract templates, I think I even have one of them. What is the best way to handle a client who breaches a contract?
Well, step
Ooh.
1 is taking all the nasty fact patterns and putting them into a social media post. I'm kidding. And doing it for clicks and engagement, and then see if you get any clients from that. Actually, that's my least favorite social media strategy. And that's one of the reasons I don't post a ton of client stories is one, like attorney-client privilege. Occasionally I will post a story, but I always make it anonymous, and I try not to make it where my client's in the negative fact pattern just because, like, I hate that as a, like, scroller and people hire things. Like, I don't wanna see you talking crap about your clients. But if you do have a client who breaks a contract, the first thing I would say to do is make sure that you've documented everything. Sometimes, like, you can go back and retroactively document stuff, and that's one of the great things about having a good contract in place is that it usually sets, like, the framework for how a dispute is handled. So it will say, like, okay, if something comes up, maybe there's a 30-day period where we have to have good faith negotiations before anybody can escalate it. So to it being litigation or arbitration or mediation, like whatever your framework is in there, it should tell you. And it should tell you a contract what happens if somebody wants to cancel their services, right? What's the notice period? How is it handled? And then, I would say the best thing to do is just make sure you're, like, professional in your communications, but definitely handle it through, um, like, I would say more professional channels, like email is the best way. Just, like, documenting things back and forth, taking things out of, like, so a lot of times if, it's a social media lead, we talk on social media in messages, sometimes in text messages, but moving everything over to one channel kinda can help bring it back to a meeting of the minds if necessary, or like it establishes the record for you if you have to like pursue it.
Yeah, those are great tips.
Yeah, always have
Yeah.
a written trail.
Yeah.
Definitely. So, Amber, let's talk about something that we are all too familiar with as business owners.
Yes.
Scope creep.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. As somebody who helps like enforce scope creep, I've recently been doing all of my contract templates to address this a little bit like better. And give people easy ways to handle it because it's gonna come up. And so now I'm doing it 2 ways in like our contracts, right? So it's an easy way where people can like if somebody wants to add something on, you don't have to necessarily send them a written amendment to the contract or an addendum. You can, but they can actually just email you and that like per your original contract is like the chain for you to prove like they've increased the scope, right? The best way I think to build that in is to help remind them in the onboarding and like the proposal process that like this is what's included. So being like very clear in your scope of services and work, it's so important, right? And then having like clear mechanism, like a way to actually then get paid for those additional things that a client will add on inevitably. I think that's the way to do it. It's so funny because like I help people with this, but I am so guilty of that myself. Like for especially for my ongoing clients, like I will just do stuff, you know.
Oh,
and
I feel like
yeah,
that's kind of part of like good business too. I mean, it depends what it is and it's a case by case basis. But if we have a client that's scoped for 3 posts a week and they need an extra post because something's going on, I'm not going to be like, well, let's nickel and dime you for that. And like, we'll just do it.
right.
But
And
if
it depends.
you're
Yeah.
completely changing our scope where we're scoped for 2 reels a month and you now want 1 a week, like, sure, we can definitely do that. However, this is what we're scoped for. So are we looking to change the scope or
Yeah. And
yeah.
that's a like perfect example actually. So like sometimes it's something small and you don't need to, right?
Mhm.
It's better business just to keep the client happy and keep the client. Other times, like if it's ongoing or if it's a big change, then you should document it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we recently had a situation like this in my business where we had scope creep and we didn't want to leave the client hanging, right? We wanted to make sure we took care of the situation, even though it was an outside of scope issue. So we said, okay, we're going to take care of this for you. We're good partners. We want to work with you. So we took care of it, but said next time something like this comes up, then we will have to
Mhm.
evaluate an additional rate for this type of work. In this situation, it was completely different than what we're
Mhm.
scoped to do. It was a completely different service offering entirely. So,
Yeah.
um,
Almost like a tester. Like
yeah,
if you like this, then we could do it again. Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. We certainly are able and
Yeah.
capable of
Yeah.
doing things for you.
Yeah.
However, next time.
Yeah, you just have to figure out the way to deliver it. You can't just be like, "Sorry, that's not in the scope," or,
Yeah.
be
You know,
rude about.
I do work with a copywriter like on an ongoing basis who is so like firm with her scope. Like sometimes where I'm like, but you kind of promised me like a revision. So,
Yeah.
like sometimes like a person's work is like really good and you really will want to pay like for the additional work, you know? And so I would tell people like who are listening to this, like, don't be afraid to send like the request for like let them know like this is how much it will be,
Mhm.
especially if like you know it's important to your bottom line, and like you need to get paid for the time. Like I think it's just kind of it's so situational that you
Yeah.
shouldn't be worried about it. Like if you need to, you need to.
Yeah, and I would say one example too is, I think especially on the creative side of marketing, sometimes you're designing a post or a reel or an email for a client and it goes into multiple rounds of revisions,
Mhm.
more than anticipated. And so one thing that we build into our contracts is we say this includes 2 rounds of revisions. Any additional revisions will be evaluated at an additional rate. So we at
Yeah.
least build that in saying, "Hey, we're gonna give you 2 chances to give all your feedback and get us to knock this out of the park for you, but if we can't get it there or it just keeps going back and forth, then we need to look at scope creep."
Mhm.
Something that I've realized from people I've worked with or people that I know that have worked with people is I don't think a lot of people read the contracts. So, they think because it's the end of the month, they can just fall off. And it's like, no, there's a 30-day notice clause in our contract. It's also in our onboarding packet. We also talked about it on the discovery call. Or there's other certain situations where they like didn't see whatever it was. So like Lindsay, what you were talking about, I think people just miss in contracts completely.
Yeah, I wonder what the workaround for that is. Is it like some sort of legal briefing meeting after the contract is signed or before the contract is signed? Would love to get your thoughts on that, Amber.
I mean, that's actually a great opportunity to like make something different than what exists in the industry right now. So, one thing I like is I've seen it done more often in like website policies where privacy policies will be like written in like a foreign language sometimes. Not, I mean, like truly it's like legalese, but it's like English. It's like, it looks like it's something else. So you're like, I don't know what you just said. Like those were words, but like, what did that mean? And so at the top of each section, it will have like the very plain English, what this section means. Like it will, if it's something about this long diatribe about like how somebody uses your data, like, we keep your pixels for 30 days. Like it will just say something there. Like,
Mhm.
you know, all data is kept like for this amount of time. If you need to delete it, go here. Like, so that's one, like using that idea of like a common plain language to say what's inside of a contract. You could do it in a brief way. But it kind of sounds like you're already doing that if you're doing it inside of like your onboarding and your welcome and like your proposal.
Mhm.
Um, so, something you could do is like take the important stuff out. If in your industry, like cancellation is really important, scope is really important, you could like make a little section that looks cute and is short, right? And it goes at the very top of it. Or maybe it goes before they actually get to the contract, like it's right before it, like a snapshot.
Mhm.
I think that could be really cool. A cool way to do it is like, making it look easy to read and skimmable. Maybe that's a really good use of AI, to
Yeah.
like make these 3 sections like bullet points for me. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
Or
I like
yeah.
that.
I'm even thinking out loud here, but I'm thinking about, like, when I go to the dentist office, right, and they have me
Mhm.
sign all these papers and, like, "Here, put your initial next to each
Yeah,
point about this financial disclosure," whatever it is, right?
yeah.
I wonder if that's would that be suitable too, like, next to, like, your cancellation clause, making them
Mhm.
initial to make sure they saw it?
Yeah, I do have some clients we do that for, like, absolutely. Yeah, we will have some people, initial, but when I go to the dentist and I'm initialing stuff, I'm still not reading it.
Um,
You know what I mean? I'm just gonna say that, like, I'm just gonna get my work done. I'm gonna get my dental work done. I already looked at your Google reviews. I don't really care what's in here, And so I do think if we put it in some way, because like people do have such short attention spans, and by the time they get to a cancellation clause inside of a contract, that's like 2/3 of the way through it. They're probably done reading, you know. So I would say at the beginning, and that's why we put scopes of work at the beginning,
Mhm.
payment terms at the beginning, because we do want people to read that. And I did start shifting my cancellation policies inside of our contracts up closer to the beginning because like that's really, you
Yeah.
know, for that same reason that people like check out, and I don't blame them. Like contracts are boring and they're hard to read. We try to make ours easier to understand, but I really do like the idea of like a brief. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Like it could be
Yeah.
as depending on your like what do you call it, client management system. If you have like Honeybook or Dubsado or one of those things, I think it's easy to create like a separate screen right before you get to the contract.
At what point do you think businesses should move from a templated contract to a more custom one?
You know, I think that's like going back to the first thing you asked, like what do you do when you start making like more consistent revenue? And that's also one of the things is like maybe having your templates reviewed, customized for you, or fully redone with a lawyer is that's a great checkpoint for you as a business owner. And a lot of my clients do come to me when they've been in business like for 2 years, they're ready to keep going. That's something that they always like are pretty interested in, or having like a lawyer like sit down and look at their contracts, make sure they're really covered. And we almost always find something. They're like, oh no, you filled this out totally wrong, or like, you know, not making them feel bad, but like that happens. You know, sometimes people are just like don't know what they're filling in the first place, so it gets missed.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, Amber, I saw your story, which I think I also commented on, that you had a client who some of their content got ripped off, I believe was the situation. And I have seen this a lot on social media where creators are ripping off other creators. Large brands to small brands are taking celebrity photos and turning them into memes. I was always told that you're not allowed to do that legally. What can you explain what you can and cannot do there?
Yeah. It's kind of difficult, like marketing your business online, I would say, especially on social media, right? First, you have to figure out like your strategy and your content pillars. And then you're like, wait, what I'm creating this, what can I not do? And those are all really good questions. Like my clients, as part of what I do, is like anytime they're copied, have their content stolen, their brands infringed, I do help like with those takedown things. And so the legal tea, if you will, um, recently, I think people are getting smarter on the internet. And so one of the questions you have to ask yourself, like when you're creating content, is am I doing a trend or am I copying somebody? Right. Cause like those are like very close things. And where's the line between those? Um, and I saw one of my favorite creators to follow. Her name's Shannon McKinstry. She talks about that a lot in her content. Like she gives you a lot of like trend ideas. But she has also had like a lot of discussion on what a trend is in the first place because she has been copied several times in terms of verbatim copy and paste onto other large creator accounts. Larger than she has a large account too, but like larger than hers. Um, and you know, at what point is it not original anymore? I mean, I guess the trend is kind of not original anyways, but you do your own spin on it, right? So, like to answer some of those questions, yeah, you're always running a risk if you use any kind of like commercial audio, right? And so that whole like trick about making your account like an entrepreneur account or like a creator account to get access to the better music is kind of the reason you're like stepping over the firewall that Instagram or TikTok has created um, to put in place to protect you because now you have access to it's kind of like unlicensed audio for commercial purposes. Like it's no longer commercially licensed. It is the good music is technically you're not supposed to use it if you're like a business account or you are monetizing your account.
Mhm.
The same goes for those like memes and images. The argument is like whether or not it's fair use, like because I'm transforming it. To be honest with you, that really doesn't come into play for like a static image. Like if we're taking like a paparazzi picture, like of somebody else's photograph, and we're making it into a meme, like we're taking the whole work. We're taking all of what it is and using it wholly on our page. And that is kind of infringement. Like we are at that point using somebody else's creative work, even if we're creating a meme out of it. I would say that's probably like too far. You're not allowed to do that. Plenty of people do it. So it's like, does the risk outweigh the reward? Sometimes you want to hop on a trend. Like, I don't know. I've seen a lot of people just archive it when it's done, when the trend runs its course, or just put it in stories and not on your feed. But like, again, it's not super original anyways. And so if you are a business account, the safest thing to do would be like not to use works you don't have a license to use, like somebody else's photograph or unlicensed audio. And I think it's really tricky, right? Because like all the gurus, like they give you like trending audio reports and stuff, and like, it's kind of hard because you're really not supposed to do that.
Yeah, that's interesting because I know several businesses who their workaround is to have a creator move their business account to a creator account to have better access to audio and tracks that are trending. So
yeah, I'm not the best. Do as I say, not as I do. Like that's how I am here because I have definitely used audio sometimes. Like I will mostly not ever use it in a sales post because I'm not trying to like directly make money off of somebody else's content. But I again, risk versus reward, understanding that it is a risk. And what I've found too, I don't know if it's like the algorithm or what, but in the videos where I'm actually talking lately and I'm not using trending audio of any kind, those are doing much better for me. So like it's making me inspired to like just go for it. I actually two of my friends have had like those trending audio subscriptions memberships where you can be in it and they'll send you like trending audio and like real ideas for the week. I recently like, no shade, I canceled my subscriptions because I was like, it's not really like aligned with me anymore to like do that when I'm trying to help creators protect their rights. It's like I probably shouldn't be doing that. So I am shifting my own content to kind of reflect that a little bit better because it's like it's hard,
yeah, absolutely. And how should creators protect themselves these days, especially in long-term brand partnerships?
Well, with brand partnerships in particular, those are under like they're regulated by in the US by the Federal Trade Commission. They give us like this set of rules for influencers and the creator economy in general because post COVID the creator economy exploded. And it's only continuing to grow. And so when something gets big like that, then the government finally starts paying attention and starts making all these rules that we have to follow. They actually came out with, I think it was in 2024 or 2025, like an updated set of influencer guidelines that actually are written in more plain English and easier to follow. And they give you a better framework about how you're supposed to disclose your like brand partnerships. Because when we're entering into these brand deals, like most of the time a brand will present you with a contract, right? And they'll say, okay, sign this, for X amount of money. You want to make sure you're looking at the IP terms and usage rights, like paying attention to what you're actually giving them and how they can use it and for how long in the contract. But then also once you get to the posting part, like you're just as on the hook as the company, like for that actual piece of content. So it's really important to like make sure you're disclosing the relationship correctly. And you can do that through like hashtag ad, but like you want to make sure you do it on the video and at the beginning of the caption. And so there's just a like a better framework, and it's on ftc.gov, I think. And if you search it, like you literally go to Google and look for it, it should come up. It's a PDF thing that I think is a really great resource for anybody doing like, affiliate programs, influencer content. Like it's a good thing just to read through and have.
Yeah, that's great. And we'll link to the ftc.gov website in the show notes as well. So
Sweet.
thank you.
What is one thing that you would say business owners think is protecting them legally, but it's actually not?
Okay, look, the biggest misconception for especially online businesses in general is that there are no there are no laws like with regard to how you do business and how you market your business. I think most business owners like think is protecting them but isn't would be absolutely like, oh, I have my LLC formed, I have my domain, I am like good in this business name. So it's like that misconception that um they own the rights to their brand because they have the like social media, they have the domain. And that's like not true at all. You have to have a federal trademark in order to have the exclusive right to do business as that name in the country. It's easy, like, for me as a lawyer to understand what I'm supposed to do no, actually, but to what I'm supposed to do ethically and what I'm not supposed to do ethically because I have, like, this professional rules of conduct, like, that they're written out, like, I can go online, I can Google them and look at them. And when we start an online business, I don't think we realize that we also have a rule book that we are supposed to follow. Nobody tells us that, right? Because, like, we're not aware that all this stuff is out there because it is such a piecemealed thing. You have like the Federal Trade Commission has this rule book for how we do our marketing. And then even that is like disjointed in a bunch of different things. And then you have every single state in the US has their own privacy laws that tell us how we have to do our privacy policies. There's not a federal privacy law. And then you have like consumer protection laws that vary by state too, that tell you how you can make a product and how long you have to like give somebody access for it. And can you even make the product you want to make? That's a really big thing in the health education space, by the way. People don't even realize it. Like sometimes you can't even do the kind of coaching you want to do because this certain state says you can't do it. We don't know to even look for that. So I would just say like that is the biggest gap that exists for online businesses. It's like not realizing that there are these laws you have to follow.
And that is a pretty big gap.
Yeah.
Gap.
Because you don't know, like, where is the school for online businesses? Like, maybe it's in college now. It wasn't when I went.
It was
When I
not.
went to law school. Like, I don't know.
No, when I started my business, there's nothing out there. There's no rule book, like you said, no playbook
Yeah.
of here's how you get started. But
Yeah.
Mhm.
thankfully, there's folks like you who exist and are a good starting point for anyone. Yeah. So for anyone looking to get started, I mean, I would say, you're a great starting point for a lot of
Mhm.
people. So definitely check out theboutiquelawyer.com. Amber, you've shared so much great information with us today. Thank you so much. Part two, always learn so much when we chat with you. If someone listening were to walk away from this episode with specific actionable takeaways, what would you like those to be?
Well, I think the first thing is like, don't feel bad about like, oh man, realize I have a giant legal to-do list now. Like, you are probably right in line with 95% of online business owners. So this episode is step one. Good for you, like good for like learning and checking in. And then I kind of think my blog is a great place to start, but we are also relaunching our Legal Zine, which is a free online digital magazine that teaches online business owners everything you need to know about running an online business and the legal part of it, at least. Not everything, but definitely the legal stuff. And so I think that's a great step too. And in terms of prioritizing, like that is what I teach inside of the Legal Zine is how to prioritize what to get done depending on what phase of business you're at. Because for everybody, it's a little different. I would start by accessing all the free information that is out there and then figuring out what you need to do and then implementing it. So, kind of a simple framework, but it's definitely doable.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And Amber, I know we've mentioned your website several times throughout this episode, but for anyone listening, if they want to find you on social or online, where can they find you?
I am on Instagram at the boutique lawyer, or theboutiquelawyer.com is the best place to find me on the internet.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you so much again, Amber, for joining us today. Always learn so much from chatting with you. And thank you to everyone listening who's arrived at the very end of this episode. Thanks for listening. We're out.
See you. Bye.